Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's classes on chanting. We're currently doing a series on learning the pronunciation of mantras that are used very commonly in pujas and homas, specifically at the Sri Vidya Temple. So in the last session, we started with the Purvanga Puja, which is what we do at the beginning of any puja or homa. And we've gotten partway through, and we'll be starting with the Asana Puja tonight. So first, I'll do the Ganapati Prayer, and then we can start. I'll start my Shruti. Om Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnan Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanan Dhyayet Sarva Vikhnopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnur Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Charu Amma, you can unmute yourself. And we'll start from the Asana Puja.
Ekaji, before you starting the Asana Puja, I have a question on the before the last classes.
Sure.
On the declaration of the Vikneswara Puja, we have to hold is for the Sri or no?
In which, okay. Adau Vikneshwara Dhyanam Karishye.
No, Mamo Pata Samasta Durdakshatvaras. Is it we have to hold is before the Sri, or just for the declaration we are not holding is?
Generally, it should be held because it's a single line of Sanskrit. So it's good to hold there.
Okay.
Like Duritakshaya Dwara Shri. Dwara Shri. That would be that would be the most accurate way to chant. Definitely.
Okay, and the next question on the Gayatri Mantra, is it Abo Jyoti Rasa as per the temple puja books, but here is Jyoti Rasom so. Is it so? Is it a Rasa? Which one is right?
So if I look in various sources for Yajurveda that record this mantra, they say Rasom Ratam. Technically, it comes from rasas amritam, rasas or rasaha amritam. When those two words are combined, it becomes rasomritam. It's due to the principle of sandhi. In Sanskrit, there is sandhi, which means that when two words come together, depending on the sounds that are next to each other, they may change.
So it's supposed to be there's an S simple before that or no? Raso then X simple or no? Like a ha, there's a called a ha sound, like sometimes this comes, you see like a simple like a S, like an S.
Do you mean the avagraha?
Yeah, avagraha, yes.
Correct. So because it's rasas or rasaha plus amritam, it becomes raso, and then the from the amritam gets dropped. So in Devanagari, so I see that I didn't really put that into the document. So to make it more correct, the Devanagari, there should be avagraha. Raso, avagraha, then mritam. In English, that would be like an apostrophe is how we indicate the avagraha. So good point. That's something that I would correct.
Okay, and another next one is, I don't know, whoever using the Tamil script, there is Projodaya, there's an off, there's an one letter is missing, so I don't know whoever can correct it. Projodaya, they put Tamil in like a yeah, only they put not ya, only put the yeah.
Actually, that's a mistake in all the scripts. So this is the thing where no matter how many times I go through something, as soon as we do the class, there's always at least one thing that I forgot to correct. So that should definitely be a yat, not yat. So if you're looking at the documents that I provided in Prachodayat, the yat.
Yeah, I'm just I bring it out because whoever using the Tamil script, they can correct it. That's what I told.
It's not just the Tamil, it's also all the other scripts. So whatever script you're using, that yat should be a dirgha, dirgha ah sound. So that's something that I missed when I was reading the document. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
In the same line, then next, it's apojyoti or apojyoti. Sanskrit is a apo.
Yeah, that's what I forgot it. Sorry.
Apo.
That's another one. Very good point. Apo.
Apojyoti, that is.
Because it's coming from apaha, water. So definitely that should also be apo. So very good points. I will make a note to correct those. See, this is why the classes are so helpful.
Yeah, because many eyes are seeing it. I go through my documents same way. Sometimes it gets all.
It doesn't matter how many times I go through it. I always miss at least one thing.
It is difficult. At least you're doing it so much. We're thankful.
Very good to have extra sets of eyes reviewing it. Very good. Any other questions, or is that everything?
That's it, Ekaji. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem. Okay, all right, so we'll go on with Asana Puja, and Charu Aunty will be repeating the lines. Om Asya Sri Asana Mahamantrasya
Om Asya Sri Asana Mahamantrasya Om Asya Sri Asana Mahamantrasya
Prithivya Meru Prishtarashaye Namaha
Prithivya Meru Prishtarushaye Namaha Prithivya Meru Prishtarushaye Namaha
Shirasi
Shirasi Shirasi.
Good. Sutalanchhandase Namaha Mukhe
Sutalanchhandase Namaha Mukhe Sutalanchhandase Namaha Mukhe
Kurmo Devataye Namaha Hridaye
Kurmo Devataye Namaha Hridaye Kurmo Devataye Namaha Hridaye
Asane Viniyogaha
Asane Viniyogaha Asane Viniyogaha.
Good. Okay, so that was just like a little introduction to what we're chanting for the Asana Puja, which is a puja to our own seat, our own asanam, for the purpose of making it steady and making sure that we can sit properly and comfortably for the duration of the puja or homa that we're doing. Yes?
Question, which one is the correct, the ending Tirtham? It's going to be like a Namaha or Namaha? Which one is right? Namaha, not Namaha, not just to say Namaha or Namaha. Which one is the proper ending way to say?
Namaha is fine. Namaha.
Okay.
Namaha.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So after we chant the little introduction, which is actually like a small niyam, that's why we say Shirasi, because Shirasi indicates that the Rishi is in the Shirasi. And then Mukhe means the Chandas is in the, you can say the nose or the mouth. And then the Devata, Kurmo Devataye Namaha, that is in the heart. So that's the indication. Next comes a small shloka. And this shloka, we chant it in a certain way. There may be a small variation where we say instead of chasanam kuru, it could be kuru chasanam. And I've seen the shloka in the, I believe it's the Lalita Tripura Stavaraja.
Yeah.
I believe that's where that shloka comes. So let's practice that particular shloka. Prithvitvaya dhruta loka.
Prithvitvaya dhruta loka. Prithvitvaya dhruta loka.
Devitvam vishnuna dhruta.
Devitvam vishnuna dhruta. Devitvam vishnuna dhruta.
Good. Now the whole line. Prithvitvaya dhruta loka devitvam vishnuna dhruta.
Prithvitvya dhruta loka devitvam vishnuna dhruta. Prithvitvaya dhruta loka devitvam vishnuna dhruta.
Good. Now the next line. Tvanja dharaya man devi.
Tvam cha dharaya mam devi. Tvam cha dharaya mam devi.
Pavitranja sanam kuru.
Pavitrancha sanam kuru. Pavitrancha sanam kuru.
Tvanja dharaya man devi pavitrancha sanam kuru.
Tvam cha dharaya mam devi pavitrancha sanam kuru. Tvam cha dharaya mam devi pavitrancha sanam kuru.
Good. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next part, which is a series of mantras that we chant while offering akshatas to different parts of the asanam. Yogasanaya namaha.
Yogasanaya namaha. Yogasanaya namaha.
Virasanaya namaha.
Virasanaya namaha. Virasanaya namaha.
Sharasanaya namaha.
Sharasanaya namaha. Sharasanaya namaha.
Sanyogasanaya namaha.
Sanyogasanaya namaha. Sanyogasanaya namaha.
Om Hrim Adhara Shakti Kamalasanaya namaha.
Om Hrim Adhara Shakti Kamalasanaye Namaha. Om Hrim Adhara Shakti Kamalasanaye Namaha.
Good. So we'll just finish up with the Bhumi Puja. So what we're chanting here, Rakta Dwadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha. That's something that's not very common in other versions of the Purvanga Puja. And I believe it comes from the Parashurama Kalpa Sutras, which is a text concerning Sri Vidya practices. So this is something that is often chanted during Sri Chakra Puja or Navavarana Puja specifically.
Ektaji, can you chant the whole thing, the asana puja, then for the practices?
I will do that as soon as we finish the Bhumi Puja. I'll do those together.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is something a little bit unusual, but this is something where we would hold flowers or akshatas while we're chanting this. And then when we say Bhuma Devye Namaha, we offer that to the ground, to Mother Earth. And then we touch the earth and take the blessings. Okay, so now we'll do the mantra. Raktattvadasha Shakti Yuktaya.
Raktadvadasha Shakti Yuktaya. Raktadvadasha Shakti Yuktaya.
Dvipanathaya Namaha.
Dvipanathaya Namaha. Dvipanathaya Namaha.
Raktattvadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha.
Raktadvadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha. Raktadvadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha.
Good. Technically, there should be a little bit of holding on the dvipa or dvi. Yuktaya dvi. Yuktaya dvi. Okay.
So Ektaji, if you hold it, then you have to say Vibhanataya, or again we have to say Dvi. Because you're already holding the eighth, so there's going to be extra another half a matra, right? Then.
Mm-hmm.
So is it we are adding extra half a matra then?
No.
If you hold it, then it's going to be Vibhanadaya, or again we have to say Duvi.
So the way you can think of it is that there's an extra D sound there.
Okay.
Yuktayadvi. Yuktayadvi.
Okay. So we are adding another half a matra of id, right?
It's not that we're adding it, but that half a matra is there because of holding.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So I'll chant it on my own one time. Raktattvadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah. Yes, I heard that. Yeah. Okay. So if you're holding with an id, then okay. Okay. Now okay, it makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll go to the beginning of Asana Puja and I'll chant it by myself one time through. Om Asya Shri Asana Mahamantrasya Prithivyameru Prashtarashaye Namaha Shirasi Sutalan Chandase Namaha Mukhe Kurmo Devataye Namaha Hridaye Asane Viniyogaha Prithvit dhruta loka devitvam vishnuna dhruta Tvancha dharayaman devi pavitrancha sanankuru Yogasanaya namaha Virasanaya namaha Sharasanaya namaha Sanyogasanaya namaha Om Hrim Adhara Shakti Kamalasana Namaha Raktattvadasha Shakti Yuktaya Dvipanathaya Namaha Bhuma Devyai Namaha. Okay, so now Rupa Amma, do you want to chant the lines?
Yes, Amma. Sure.
Okay, so now we come to the Kanda Puja, which is where we are worshiping the bell that we're using in the puja. And in this, there are quite a few variations. So the way we normally chant is Jagad Dhwani. I've also seen this as Jayad Dhwani. So instead of Jaga, it would be Jaya. So those are two variations. Also, in the shloka that comes next, there are a lot of variations. So you can have Ghantaravam Karom Yadav, or you can have Kuru Ghantaravam Tatra, or Kuryat Ghantaravam Tatra. And then in the second part, we have Devata Hwana Karanam. Very often, instead of Karanam, it might be Lanchanam. So these are all very common variations. They mean basically the same thing, but just these variations are there. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha.
Om Jagadvani Mantra Mataha. Om Jagadvani Mantra Mataha.
Good. And notice the dha, dha plus va in dhvani. So that's a mahaprana, the dha. So that's something that you can practice to pronounce as dhvani.
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 Dhvani. Okay.
Okay. And then the next part. Hum bhat swaha.
Hum Pat Swaha. Hum Pat Swaha.
Good. Now the whole thing. Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha Hum Bhat Swaha.
Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha Hum Pat Swaha. Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha Hum Pat Swaha.
Good. I heard the Mahaprana more clearly in Dhvani. Also notice that Pat in Hum Pat, that Pa is also Mahaprana. And that's a sound of sort of rejecting or clearing energy from around our space. So that Pat is a very important sound energetically. So it's something that we definitely want to pronounce carefully and clearly as a pa. It's like sort of ejecting any kind of negative energies that might be around us or around the bell or the patras that we're using in the puja.
Can I repeat it, Dharma? One more time?
Sure.
Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha Hum Phat Swaha. Om Jagadhvani Mantra Mataha Hum Phat Swaha.
Very good. Very clear. So now let's do the shloka that comes after, which is like a regular Anushtup Chandas. Agamarthantu devanam
Agamartantu devanam. Agamartantu devanam.
Good. And I think you're using the Tamil script, right?
Yes, Amma. Yes, Amma.
So artham, you'll see like a ta with a two.
Two. Yes.
So anytime there's a 2 or a 4 in the Tamil script, that means that it's a Mahaprana. So that's how you can know in the Tamil script. So that would be Agamarthan.
Fun.
Okay. Again, same thing with Gamanarthan. That ta is also Mahaprana.
Okay.
So let's try the second half.
Okay.
Gamanarthan tu rakshasam.
Gamanathantu rakshasam. Gamanathantu rakshasam.
Good. Agamarthantu devanam gamanarthantu rakshasam.
Agamathantu devanam. Gamanathantu rakshasam. Agamathantu devanam. Gamanathantu rakshasam.
Very good. Now the next line. Again, gha will be Mahaprana.
Ektaji, the Devanang, this is Anuswaram, right? We can use it, right?
Yes, in Devanam, it ends in Anuswara. So it's like Devanang Gamanar.
Okay. Thank you.
Nangama. You can chant it like that.
Okay, thank you.
Ghantaravankarom yadau.
Gantaravankaron yadhau. Gantaravankaron yadhau.
Devatahvanakaranam.
Devada I am Devadahvanakaranam. Devadahvanakaranam.
Good. It's very tricky to pronounce that because there's an H and then a V in the same syllable. That's a very hard combination. Hwana.
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 Hwana. Hwana.
Yeah.
Hwana.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit of practice to get used to that. It's very tricky. And also there's holding. So it's especially hard because there's holding on the ich. So it's like Devatahvana. Devatahvana. So that definitely takes some extra practice.
Devadahvana. Devadahvana.
So let's try the whole line. Ghantaravankarom yadau devatahvana karanam.
Gantaravankaron yadhau devadahvana karanam. Gantaravankaron yadhau devadahvana karanam.
Good. Iti ghantanadam krutva.
Idik.
No, it's like iti and then gha.
Idi ghantanadam krutva. Idi ghantanadam krutva.
That's it. And that just means that I just made the bell sound. So this is the part in the puja where you're ringing the bell. And so all you're saying is, I just made the bell sound. Iti ghantanadam kritva. Okay. So what I'll do is now I'll chant this part myself one time through. Okay. Om Jagadhvani Mantra Matah Hum Bhat Swaha Agamarthantu Devanang Gamanarthan Turakshasam Ghantaravangkarom Yadav Devatahvanakaranam Iti ghantanadam kritva. Okay, so for Deepa Puja, maybe Daniel, Aya, do you want to repeat those lines?
Sure, Ektaji.
Okay, so for this one again, there's a Anushtup Chandas Shloka, which has a lot of variation. So the second line, it could be Yavat Puja Samaptisyat. It could also be, you might see Yavat Puja Yashyami. In the second part of the line, we have Tavat Tvam Sustira Bhava. Another common variation is Tavat Prajwala Sustira. So all of these mean the same thing. The idea is that we're saying, we're honoring the Devi, the goddess who is in the flame. This is the flame that we're going to use as we do arati, the deep arati in the puja. And we're saying, oh, Devi of the flame, please be auspicious. Please show your auspicious to me always. And then in the second line, we're saying, for as long as the puja is going on, or as long as I'm doing the puja, please, you be stable. You be very be a very steady flame, because we don't want the flame of the puja to go out while we're doing the puja. That's something that we always have to watch for. And we're adding the extra oil and making sure the flame doesn't go out while we're doing the puja. So that's
what is the other alternative for samapti? What's the other word you say?
So instead of Yavat Puja Samaptisyat, I've also seen this shloka like Yavat Puja Yashyami. So the first one means until the puja is finished. The one where we say Yavat Puja Yashyami means for as long as I'm doing the puja.
Okay.
So the grammar is just changing slightly, but the meaning and the significance is the same.
And when we do this Deepa Puja, like when we, the main light is already on, is lit. It's only the Deepam that we light at that time, right?
So this gets into a little bit of the process of doing puja, which we have some other classes for. Yeah, typically you would have other lights that are lit next to your murti. And this is where the Purvanga Puja is really for everything that's on your puja tray.
Got it.
So on your shrine or your altar, there are others like standing lamps or something like that you will light separately.
Okay.
And they'll stay there.
Okay.
Then when you have your puja tray, you have like the bell and your achamana patram and your panchapatram and your deepam that you're going to use when you actually do the arati.
Okay.
So that's the one that we're addressing now.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so Daniel, Aya will repeat the lines. Deepa Devi Mahadevi.
Deepa Devi Mahadevi. Deepa Devi Mahadevi.
Good. Shubham bhavatu me sada.
Shubham bhavatu me sada. Shubham bhavatu me sada.
Good. Deepa Devi Mahadevi Shubham bhavatu me sada.
Deepa Devi Mahadevi Shubham bhavatu me sada. Twice.
Yes, 2 times.
Deepa Devi Mahadevi Shubham bhavatu me sada.
Very good. One thing that you can polish a little bit is in the middle of the line, we generally don't pause. So that's something everybody can work on. When we're doing Anushtup Chandas, which is the same meter that we have in Lalita Sahasranama or Vishnu Sahasranama, all those kinds of common stotras, we generally chant the entire line through. So we don't have a pause in the middle. So that's just something to polish a little bit. Now let's do the next line. Yavat puja samaptisyat.
Yavat puja samaptisyat. Yavat puja samaptisyat.
Very close. The first line is, first word is yavat.
Yavat.
And then puja, the ja is also dirgha.
Puja.
That's it. Yavat puja samaptisyat.
Yavat puja samaptisyat. Yavat puja samaptisyat.
The second time was correct.
I noticed.
Puja, that's why everybody chants 2 times, because often the first time is not quite there. And then the second time is to see if you catch any mistakes and you can correct them. So puja, puja. That word puja has dirgha u and dirgha a. Okay. And now the second part. Tavat tvam susthira bhava.
Tavat tvam sustira bhava. Tavat tvam sustira bhava.
Good. And notice the mahaprana in thi, in susthira.
Sustira bhava.
Also bhava. Okay. Good. Deepa Devye Namaha.
Deepa Devye Namaha. Deepa Devye Namaha.
Deepa Lakshmi Namaha.
Deepa Lakshmi Namaha. Deepa Lakshmi Namaha.
Good. All right, now I'll chant the whole thing through by myself. Deepa Devi Mahadevi Shubham Bhavatu Me Sada. Yavat Puja Samaptisyat Tavat Tvam Susthira Bhava. Deepa Devyai Namaha. Deepa Lakshmyai Namaha. Okay. Let's see. So if anyone else is open to chanting the lines, please put a message in the chat. Otherwise, I'll come back to Charu Auntie. For the Kalasha Puja. And this is where we're energizing the Panchapatram that has the water that we're going to be using to make the offerings to the form of God during the puja. So this is a very important part of the Purvanga Puja because energizing the water that we're offering is very important. Okay, so Charu Auntie, you can repeat these lines. Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu.
Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu. Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu.
Kanthe Rudra Samashritaha.
Kanthe Rudra Samashritaha. Kanthe Rudra Samashritaha.
Good. Just notice the holding on us, Rudras, and then also Samashrita. Samashritaha. Okay. Let's try the whole line. Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu kanthe Rudras Samashritaha.
Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu kande Rudra Samashritaha. Kalashasya mukhe Vishnu kande Rudra Samashritaha.
Good. And everyone should notice in Kanthe, that is also Mahaprana. Kanthe. Kanthe. All right, now let's do the next line. Mule tatra sthito brahma.
Mule tatra sthito brahma. Mule tatra sthito brahma.
Good. And here's the same example we were talking about last time, where it's Brahma, Brahma. So it's written as HM, but we pronounce it as Brahma, Brahma. And also there's holding on the ib, like Sthito Brahma, Sthito Brahma. Okay, now the next part. Madhye matrugana smrutaha.
Madhye matrugana smrutaha. Madhye matrugana smrutaha.
Good. Now the whole line. Mule tatra sthito brahma madhye matrugarnas smrutaha.
Mule tatra sthito brahma madhye matrugana smrutaha. Mule tatra sthito brahma madhye matrugana smrutaha.
Good. Now the next one. Kukshotu sagara sarve.
Kukshotu sagara sarve. Kukshotu sagara sarve.
Saptadvipavasundhara.
Saptadvipavasundhara. Saptadvipavasundhara.
Good. Kukshautu sagara sarve saptadvipavasundhara.
Kukshautu sagara sarve saptadvipavasundhara. Kukshautu sagara sarve saptadvipavasundhara.
Very good. Just keep in mind the holding on Sagara sarve. Because the visarga there is pronounced like sa and there's holding. Sagara sarve. Sagara sarve. Now the next line. Rigvedothaya Yajurvedas.
Rigvedotaya Rigvedotaya Yajurveda. Rigvedotaya Yajurvedas.
That's it. Samavedopyatharvarnaha.
Samavedopyatharvanaha. Samavedopyatharvanaha.
Good. Rigvedothaya Yajurvedas. Samavedopyatharvarnaha.
Rigvedotaya Yajurvedas. Samavedopyatharvanaha. Rigvedotaya Yajurvedas. Samavedopyatharvanaha.
Good. So I see a note from Chaitna Amma that she would also like to repeat the lines. So we just have a few more minutes. So I'll have Chaitna Auntie will repeat the next lines.
Ektaji,
Yes, Aya?
can you tell me that line, where's the holding? Only the Vedas and also Sama Vedo Pia. So we have to hold it and Pia, right?
So, okay, so in that line, there's holding on the ig, rug,
Okay.
vedota, and then again yajurveda, yajurveda, also vedasama, vedasama, and also the opya, vedopya,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
and again tarvarnaha, arvarnaha.
Okay. No, I got the other one, only the Sama Vedo Pia. That's what I have a little bit doubt. We have to, there's an Bia, right? If Bia, so we have to say, right?
Yes, opya, opya.
Okay.
So
thank
in
you.
general, anytime there's a conjunct, what we call in Sanskrit, sanyukta akshara. Sanyukta akshara. Sanyukta means combined together. So like a typical sound might be like ta, pa, ra, erna, like one single sound.
So here is the Samyut Akshara with the Dirgham with holding, right?
So sanyukta akshara means two sounds are in one syllable, like pra, tra, ksha, shma, things
Okay.
like that. Gra. So two consonants are in one syllable. When that happens, that's when you get holding on the first one, generally.
Okay.
And that
Thank you.
holding is true whether there's a hrasva vowel in front of it or a dirgha vowel in front of it. In both cases, because of the sanyukta akshara, there should be holding.
Okay. Thank you, Ektaji.
Sure. It's a tricky thing to get used to. After some time, you'll understand how to look at a line and analyze it and sort of dissect it and figure out exactly where the holding should be. It does take some time to get used to.
Yeah, because we are using this, a lot of these ones in Rudram, right? So that's what I asked the question here too.
Yeah, so it's not about the specific sounds. It's more the fact that two consonants or two sounds are combined into one syllable.
Okay.
But the other important thing to remember is it also happens when visarga comes before another consonant or when anusvara comes before another consonant. Those are also cases where that's treated like a place for holding as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ekadi.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so Chaitna Auntie, you're unmuted. Okay, so we'll repeat the lines. Angaishcha sahita sarve.
Angaishcha sahita sarve. Angaishcha sahita sarve.
Good. Kalashambhu samashritaha.
Kalashambhush samashritaha. Kalashambhush samashritaha.
Good. Angaishcha sahita sarve kalashambhu samashritaha.
Angaishcha sahita sarve kalashambhush samashritaha. Angaishcha sahita sarve kalashambhush samashritaha.
Very good. Ayantu Devi pujartham.
Ayantu Devi pujartham. Ayantu Devi pujartham.
Duritakshayakarakah.
Duritakshayakarakah. Duritakshayakarakah.
Good. Now the whole line. Ayantu Devi pujarthan duritakshayakarakah.
Ayantu Devi pujarthan duritakshayakarakah. Ayantu Devi pujarthan duritakshayakarakah.
Very good. So in this line, you'll see some variations. Like sometimes people will add like a Shri in front of the Devi, or if they know they're doing Shiva Puja instead of Devi Puja, they might say Shri Shiva Pujartham. So they'll make some little variations in this line. The reason why I've written it this way is because it fits the Anushtup Chandas. So either way you say it is fine. It's no problem. But those are some little variations you might see.
Okay.
All right, so now we'll do the next line. Gange chayamune chaiva.
Gange chayamune chaiva. Gange chayamune chaiva.
Godavari sarasvati.
Godavari saraswati. Godavari saraswati.
Good. Gange chayamune chaiva godavari sarasvati.
Gange chayamune chaiva godavari saraswati. Gange chayamune chaiva godavari saraswati.
Very good. I hear a little bit of holding where there shouldn't be any holding. So Godavari Saras. Vari Saras. So there's no holding on the is in sa. Godavari Saras. Godavari Saras. Okay.
Godavari saraswati. Godavari saraswati.
That's exactly it. Okay, let's do the next line. Narmade Sindhu Kaveri.
Narmade Sindhu Kaveri. Narmade Sindhu Kaveri.
Jalesmin sannidhim kuru.
Jalesmin sannidhim kuru. Jalesmin sannidhim kuru.
Good. Narmade sindhu kaveri jalesmin sannidhim kuru.
Narmade sindhu kaveri jalesmin sannidhim kuru. Narmade sindhu kaveri jalesmin sannidhim kuru.
Good. So kaveri ends in a hrasva. So we want to make sure we're not pronouncing the ri as like a dirgha. And then also in jalesmin, if we pronounce it like that, there's holding on the is, jalesmin. Sometimes people will break the words apart, which is fine, like jale asmin, because originally that word is asmin. Due to sandhi, it generally will combine like jalesmin, but some people may break the words apart, no problem. Okay. So now we come to, yes.
So there is a alpa prana, sorry, this is a maha prana di, right? Sannidhim.
Yes, sannidhim, that di is mahaprana.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next comes the part where we chant the 16 vowels. So I'll do 8 at a time. Im, im, rum, rum.
Im, rum, rum.
Good.
Im, rum, rum.
Good. Lum, lum, im, aim, aum, aha.
Lum, lum, im, aim, aum, aha. Lum, lum, im, aim, aum, aha.
Very good. So notice how some of these vowels are pronounced for a longer period of time than the others. So this is what we always talk about with the dirgha versus hrasva vowels. So basically, a hrasva vowel, you can think of it as being pronounced for one matra. A matra is like a unit of time. It's not like an exact time. It's not like we can say it's 1 second or 2 seconds. It's like one unit. So whatever your one unit is, dirgha will be pronounced for 2 times that amount. That's why we say im, im, right? So the longer ones are pronounced for twice as long as the hrasva vowels. So that's something that we want to remember.
Ektaji?
Uh-huh.
This is actually a rim, right? Like a rizruvacha, right? So it's going to be r, not ru, right?
So the first one is rum, like rishi.
Yeah.
The second one is the dirgha version of r.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it sounds unusual, and it's very rare. Like it's incredibly rare to have that dirgha version of the r vowel, but it does occur for sure in Devi Mahatmyam, because that's the example that we always see.
Yeah.
Matru. So you'll see that there's one line, like only one in the entire thing, where that dirgha R vowel happens. When it comes to the L vowels, the ones that are after, like lum, loom, I've definitely seen the hrasva l vowel That occurs in words like kluptam, like Lalita Sahasranama has that klupta word. But the Dirgha version of L,
And
I
the
have not seen that.
So the Chavagam also is the kliptinja, right? Same thing, right?
Exactly. Kliptanchame, kliptanchame. Same word. That's a good example. But the Dirgha version of L vowel, I have not seen anywhere. I've never come across that. I'm sure it exists somewhere in some very rare word, but I've not come across that yet.
Okay, can you like the chant or the ru and room, like because which one is the, you said like a ru, which one is like a room? Because in Sanskrit we don't use ru, right? Normally we use ru, like a rishuruvaja, right? So that's what I was confused.
Yeah, it depends on the word. It depends on the grammar and the word. So room.
Okay.
So those are the two sounds. So like I said, there is one example that we know of in Devi Mahatmyam, matru.
Yeah, is it chapter number 12?
I don't remember which chapter it is, but that word is spelled like M, and then the Dirgha A, and then T, and then the Dirgha R vowel, and then Visarga. So that it does
right.
there.
Matru koba shamavisto,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, something like that. Good memory. So that's a very challenging one, but that's the one example that we can point out for that Dirgha R vowel. Otherwise, I don't think I've seen that one anywhere else. So these are interesting sounds, but they're very significant on a yogic level. So even if we don't know of a specific word where it occurs, they still have yogic and energetic significance, because remember the 16 vowels are in the Vishuddhi chakra, the 16 petals around the Vishuddhi chakra here. So even if they don't occur very frequently, they might be a rare sound, but they still have significance in terms of the subtle body and the chakras.
So Ektaji, the same confusion I have with the Sra and the Srudva, like some in Devi Mahatmyam we have like a both word, right? Like Srudva and Sru. So is it always Srud or Sru? Like which one is the correct pronunciation?
Do you mean like sometimes where it's the R vowel and sometimes it's the R consonant plus uk, u?
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes, because that can happen, like say there's a word like, I can't really think of examples right now, but sometimes you have sha plus the R consonant plus a vowel. And in that case, that's like a conjunct syllable. But sometimes you'll have sha plus the R vowel. Or sa, like srushti.
Okay.
So you have to know whether it's the vowel or the consonant version of ra. Because that's what will tell you whether there's holding on it or not. So it's a little bit tricky, especially if you're looking at the Tamil script, because sometimes you can't tell whether it's the consonant or the vowel, and you have to check.
Okay. Yeah, I am always confused with this because some word is says Srudva and some word says Sra. So like a Sugi, like a Stugi Sranga, like in Rudram words also coming in. So sometimes I confuse with the video. We have to use Zru, like a Srudva or Sra, like that's what I had a question.
It depends on the spelling. So you have to make sure that your text is in the correct spelling. And you may need to verify it with someone knowledgeable about that particular word. But that's sure, it can be hard. And there's one question from Rupa Amma. Should we pronounce as rim, reem? Oh, you mean the vowels.
Rim, rim. Is it rim, rim?
So this is something where there's a little bit of variation on the pronunciation of this particular vowel. Most people in South India will pronounce it more like rum, room. That's the most common in South India. In North India, it might be more like ri. Like sometimes you'll see the word like we say amrutam, like amrutam. In the North, they might say it more like amritam, amritam. That's their variation, nothing wrong with it. But in our particular tradition, we tend to say it more like a r and room.
Okay.
So that's how we typically do. So it's 9:10, but we're almost to the end. So why don't we just finish up? So actually the next part that comes in the Kalasha Puja is where we chant the Dattatreya mantra. And typically this is something, because it has the Om, Hrim, Dram, those are Bijaksharas. So typically Aya will say that technically you should have some kind of Sri Vidya Diksha to chant that. But if you look in the middle, there's actually a shloka in Anushtup Chandas about Dattatreya, and it's encapsulated, or it has sampurti of those bijas. So it starts with Om Hrim Dram, and then we have the shloka, and then the ending is Dram Hrim Om. It's reversed. And then we say Dattatreya Namaha. So even though I'm not really going into Sri Vidya mantra specifically in these classes, we can still learn the pronunciation of the shloka that's in the middle of the bijas. So let's see. So Chetna Auntie is still here. So you can go ahead.
I had a question.
Okay.
So when we were talking about rum and lum, how about I heard people say arum and alum.
So those are also variations. You can follow whatever you've been taught. It's just a different way of sort of giving emphasis or pronouncing clearly.
Okay.
So
yeah, because I just didn't know. I always often got confused because I heard both. I guess in Guruji's word, arum, alum. And then I also heard rum and lum. So it's lots of difference with adding the sound before we even pronounce it.
sure. I think these are small variations in people sort of giving emphasis, or maybe it's easier for them to pronounce if they say it in that way.
Oh, I see.
I would say, either are fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with is fine.
Okay.
It's basically, I feel it's basically the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so we can finish up with this shloka, starting with Dattatreya. So Chetna Amma, you can repeat the lines. Dattatreya Hare Krishna.
Dattatreya Hare Krishna. Dattatreya Hare Krishna.
Unmattanandadayaka.
Unmattanandadayaka. Unmattanandadayaka.
Good. Dattatreya Hare Krishna Unmattanandadayaka.
Dattatreya Hare Krishna Unmattanandadayaka. Dattatreya Hare Krishna Unmattanandadayaka.
Good. Digambara Mune Bala.
Digambara Mune Bala. Digambara Mune Bala.
Pishachajnana Sagara.
Pishachajnana Sagara. Pishachajnana Sagara.
Digambaramune Balapishacha Jnana Sagara.
Digambaramune Bala Pishacha Jnana Sagara. Digambaramune Bala Pishacha Jnana Sagara.
Very good. Only thing is you don't need any pause between Bala and Pishacha. Bala Pishacha, Bala Pishacha.
Digambaramune Bala Pishacha Jnana Sagara. Digambaramune Bala Pishacha Jnana Sagara.
Very good. And we'll just do this very final little line. Iti pujopakarnani.
Iti pujopakarnani. Iti pujopakarnani.
Dravyani atmanam cha prokshya.
Dravyani atmananja prokshya. Dravyani atmananja prokshya.
Iti pujopakarnani dravyani atmanam cha prokshya.
Iti pujopakarnani dravyani atmananja prokshya. Iti pujopakarnani dravyani atmananja prokshya.
Good. The word atmanam has dirgha a. So atmanam, atmanam. And there's a couple variations here. So sometimes we say samprokshya. In some pujas, you might just see proksha, proksha or samprokshya. Same word, just two different little variations there. So what I'll do, since we've come to the end, is I'll just chant the Kalasha Puja by myself one time through. Kalashasya mukhe Vishnuh kanthe rudras samashritah mule tatra sthito brahma madhye matrugana smrutah Kakshau tu sagara sarve sapta dvipa vasundhara Rigvedothaya Yajurveda Samavedopyatharvanaha Angaishcha Sahita Sarve Kalashambu Samashritaha Ayantu Devi Pujarthan Duritakshaya Karakaha Gange Chayamune Chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalesmin Sannidhing Kuru Am Im Rum Lum Lum Aim, Aim, Om, Aum, Aha, Om, Hrim, Dram, Dattatreya Hare Krishna Unmattanandadayaka Digambara Mune Bala Pishacha Jnana Sagara Tram Hrim Om Dattatreya Namaha Iti Pujopakarnani Dravyani Atmanam Cha Samprokshya. Okay, so we've completed Purvanga Puja. Any other questions on what we've done tonight? Okay, I think everybody is good.
I have
Ah.
one question.
Okay, sure.
The line ite ghanta nadang kritva or ghanta natang kritva. Is it because of kritva? Do you say nadang or nadang?
So nadam does end in anuswara. So if you want to be like a very polished pronunciation, you would say nadang kritva, angkrit, because the anuswara will be like nga in front of ka. Some people also will pronounce it like nadam kritva. That's okay. Like if you listen to some recordings of Devi Mahatmyam, like Sri Prakash Kaushik, he typically pronounces anuswara like sound, even in the middle of the shloka. So it's not the end of the world if you pronounce like that. But if you want to be very, very polished, then you can say it like nadang kritva, nadang kritva.
If I would just spell it in English, it would be nadang, N-A-N-D-A-N-G or N-A-N-D-A-N-K.
So if you're spelling it in English, which is not a perfect way to spell Sanskrit, but if you were doing that, it would be like N-A-D-A-N-G and then the K. Because it's in front of ka or ga or ka or ga. Anuswara is typically pronounced like nga, like the nga in song or sing a song.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Could I ask one that has to do with meaning or translation?
Sure.
So when we're doing the akshatas and we're doing the asana puja, so I'm understanding like the first one is like maybe seat of the yogi, second one is maybe like seat of the hero, yogasanaya, virasanaya. But do you have any thoughts to share about the last two? Is one like arrows and sharasanaya?
That's a good question. I would really have to look at that. I haven't really heard anybody talk about what's the meaning of those or like what's the purpose of why we do those when we're doing asana puja. But it would be something interesting to look into. But you're right, yogasanaya is like the yoga asanam, the yoga seat. Virasanaya is like the seat of the vira or the hero. Sharasanaya, shara. I'd have to look up like what are the possible meanings of shara. Sure. And then Samyogasanaya is just like a variation on yogasanaya. But interesting question. Yeah, I've also wondered like why these particular mantras. So that would be interesting to look into.
Yeah. I know we don't need to know the translation of every word, but I like to have a sort of like at least an intention. Like, why am I doing that? Why am I saying that one?
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's why I spend a lot of time Googling all this stuff, which is not perfect. Like, it's not really perfect to find the best possible answer just on the internet somewhere or just from a Sanskrit dictionary, because these are spiritual things. So we don't always know that, we have the right idea unless we speak to the guru about it. But I still like to get some basic idea of what I'm doing. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I chanting this? I definitely like to do that. So it's always good to research, as long as we take whatever we find with a grain of salt. Just knowing that, okay, this is like a literal meaning. It might not be the real spiritual significance, but at least we have some direction to go in.
Thank you.
But yeah, interesting question. So anything else before we end? Okay, I think we're all good. All right, so
these sessions are showing us how many mistakes everybody is making. People just chant.
Definitely.
25 years, I was thinking like what mistakes I made, no Mahapranas at all. So now when I see the 2 and the 4, I freeze. when I'm coming to the 2 and 4, like so I stumble, few words before that because I see the 2 coming, and I keep thinking, oh, I have to do the ka and the ta,
It's very understandable. And the thing is, some languages have those sounds, but other languages don't. So if we're coming from like our native language, which has those sounds, it's a little bit easier. If it doesn't, then it definitely takes more effort, and it's going to take more practice, and it'll take some time before you really feel comfortable with that. But it's really worth the effort because the Mahapranas are really the sounds that have the highest level of energy in the Sanskrit language. So the way it was explained to me is that Sanskrit sounds have different levels of energy. The Mahapranas are like the highest level. So that's like a very powerful flow of energy coming into our subtle body when we pronounce those correctly. And then the other sounds, like the places where we have holding, which is all the conjunct sounds like tra, pra, ksha, and so on. That's like a middle level of energy. So that's why holding is very important. And then all of the single sounds, like just regular ta, la, va, those are like the general, regular level of energy. So based on that, you can understand like certain sounds. It's very helpful to pronounce so that we get the maximum energy and blessings from what we're chanting. So that's really why I emphasize these things. It's not because, okay, this is correct and that is not correct. It's not like grammar or like trying to get a good grade in a class. It's because we want the full spiritual energy of what we're chanting. We're spending the time to do this, so we want to get the maximum benefit that we can. So that's why I emphasize the Mahapranas and I point them out, because that's what will give you the full energy of what.
Yes.
Is there is there a way to make it easier, Ektama, like Mahapranas, like telling the Matrukas would be easier, practice, or how do I make it, come like that easier, because I struggle with the Mahapranas.
It's very natural, but it just takes practice and focus. So when you're practicing a particular text, once you feel pretty comfortable with it, you need to do one final round going through it where you focus specifically on Mahapranas. So maybe the first few times you practice it, you're more focused on what's the rhythm, what's the flow, where's the dirgha, hrasva, where's the holding, what are the basic sounds, but your final polishing should be where are the Mahapranas and am I pronouncing them correctly? So you might not get it at first because you're focused on other parts of the pronunciation, but you can save that for like the final polishing. But you have to focus on it and think about it. And it just takes practice. Just the more you practice, the more with focus, the more natural it'll get.
I feel so sorry for the big Amma. She's been listening to all this for so many years.
Who?
My big Amma.
Devi.
Devi.
Big Amma.
She's been listening to all these.
No, it's not like that.
We did not get any energy for not doing it right.
It's like learning it.
Your bhavam is also very critical. So your attitude, your devotion, that's also bringing a ton of energy. This is just like the final polishing. This is like the master level of final polishing so that you get everything. But the devotion that we have when we chant is also like half the battle, right? And Devi's not listening like with the thought of like, oh, who's chanting correctly, who's not chanting properly, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if a mom hears her baby, like even trying to say mama or amma, she's not going to get upset. She's just going to be so happy. So whatever we're saying, Devi's going to be very happy, but we can have some help and some guidance to do even better and even more. That's all it is.
Ektaji, the class is going to be the same time for the next week too?
No, we'll go back to the 10 a.m.
Okay. Is there any, what are we going to learn next? Like about my curiosity, what are we going to learn next time?
So next we'll start with Ganapati Puja. So it'll focus on any of the mantras that we haven't already done, or it's not Sri Vidya mantras. So like Ganapati Puja, it has, like typically we'll do Sri Vidya mantra for Ganapati. So I'm not going to focus on that. But anything else that's like Vedic or Lambodharaya Namaha, Vikataya Namaha, those kinds of general mantras we'll go through.
Okay.
And then after some time, will we come to the, I have a difficult time with the Purnahuti mantras in the Agni Mukam.
Everybody has a difficult time with that, including me. Yes. Once we go through the main puja mantras, we'll also go through Agni Mukam, which has a number of Veda mantras, which are hard to know how to pronounce if the text doesn't have the swaras marked. So that's one thing. So we'll have a document that has that. And then we'll also go through in Ganapati Homam, the Purnahuti mantras, which you mentioned. Those are very specific mantras, which are actually from Rigveda. So that's a slightly different style of chanting from what we're used to. So we'll talk about the difference between Rigveda and Yajurveda pronunciation. And why
I'm asking, because the Ganapati Puja, but it's actually in our Agni Mukam, we have a Vanja Kalpani, Vanja Ganapati mantra. So we do Vanja Ganapati Puja or just the regular Ganapati Puja?
So basically, I'll go through everything that I can that doesn't require Sri Vidya Diksha.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure that this is very approachable for everyone. And also this is being posted publicly on YouTube. So it's not, in these classes, it's not my role to teach Sri Vidya mantras. So I don't want to get into the pronunciation and be like I'm, giving those mantras or something. That's not the purpose here for these classes. So we'll focus on everything that doesn't require Diksha for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I think I'll stop recording since we're at 9:30. So Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody. Good morning.